driving up to look at a place where I can move with my horses, and then I'm going to go and see my horses and feed them and just relax with them. It's tiring doing this hour's journey and trying to do other stuff. It's just the pits, traffic. Go out here and then I've got to get across 2 lanes. Like a pain. Yeah, alright. Quite nice. Whenever I see anything green, he's got turf on the back of his ute. I thought it was hay. But one thing about Stack Overflow is I think people have a lot of trouble accepting that it's a business. It's different to how it started out. I don't know exactly. I remember reading about it years ago, but I know they used to rely on venture capital, but even just saying that means that they want to make money out of it. You know, venture capital. And I know people have a lot of trouble accepting that it's changed. I'm sorry about the distractions driving. I didn't want to start the video on the freeway. I wanted to start it before I was driving. Anyway, the thing is that it's a business and they want to make money. So, you know, I know people have objected to, you know, the landing page changing when that came out a few months back. And it didn't surprise me because they're trying to make money on other products. And the irony is that the same people that complain about having poor quality questions and answers, if a person, if it requires a couple of jumps to get to the question and answer site because you're not a regular user, that wasn't a Freudian slip. It's me, like my words. I get like that sometimes. If people can't cope with a couple of jumps to get to the actual question and answer site to ask a question, then maybe we don't want them asking a question. Oh my God, like this got flies in the face of what Stack Overflow is trying to achieve with the welcoming, but like honestly, there needs to be a bar. There really does need to be a bar. And I remember when I joined Stack Overflow, and there was a post on this. It wasn't for beginners. It wasn't for complete beginners. It was for enthusiasts and professionals. And then they've changed. And Tim Post wrote a post saying it's for everyone. That it's changed from being the, you know, repository of. Sorry, it's cars. Just don't want to. It's distracted. Of questions and answers to just being more. I think the thing is they're trying to make it more a catch-all question and answer. From what I can gather, it's just to get traffic. I'm not repeating anything out of the from when I was a moderator out of privileged conversations. This is all on Stack Overflow Meta and Meta Stack Exchange. User attrition and getting views on the pages, and you know, it's a one of a kind. It's going to be the site can't be replaced. Not not really, because it was one of a kind. It came in at a point when there was nothing like it, or nothing like it that has succeeded the way this did. And it's now, programming's now booming industry, and the internet's insane and established. So there's no room for someone to come in and really put in any kind of competitive site. I mean, maybe gradually over time, but it's like reinventing the wheel. So I kind of think, well, you know, I don't think, I mean, I could be dead wrong, but I don't think Stack Overflow's in any danger of being usurped by any challenging networks. But the thing is it's very clear from what used to be a very community-run site, and it still is actually. They rely on community contributions actually to create the site. It's clear that the community has a lot less sway, and the way things were done used to be a very democratic type of thing. Well, kind of democratic, but then there was, you know, a couple of people that would make some executive decisions, and, you know, they've left the site or leaving the site. One's left, one's leaving, has announced he left, and I don't know if he's gone. And I don't think they're necessarily bad decisions. I think it's pretty natural when you start a site that you're going to make some executive decisions about your site, and you feel like you own it. Like, I feel kind of possessive of Stack Overflow in many ways, and I think a lot of other people do as well. When you tend to a site, it's like a garden. You know, although it has a few weeds, it also has, there's a forest in there as well. But that brings me to another thing as well, is that, yeah, a lot of the there's a lot of, you know, what is a null pointer exception, or whatever the canonical post is on that, of how to debug null pointer exceptions. Like, there's a load of questions like that will always be stock standard and needed, but then with the rate of the way technology changes, there's always going to need to be questions, and often they'll be like about buggy platforms. So I know Xamarin was a pain in the neck, and but the thing about they had actually a pretty good question and answer site, but it was horrible. Just I hated it. But yeah, so there's always going to be things like that, and I think I don't know, maybe the site needs to accept that there's going to be duplicate questions, or I don't know. Like, I was an advocate for splitting the sites, but they're very against that, and having like a beginner's site. But then the thing is, you've got to have people willing to go and participate on the beginner's site and answer questions. And, you know, it's actually the difference is that I work in the I don't really want people to know what I do for a living, because I know that people have copped a lot of hate, and some moderators have had, I know I'm not a moderator, but I'm still putting myself out there. Yeah, go on, stopped. Jeez. Anyway, what was I going to say? Distracted. Yeah, some moderators have had people send hate stuff to their employers and this kind of thing, and God knows what else has happened to people who put themselves out there in the public, and I'm using my real name. But, you know, I work for a university basically, and so I'm involved in education, and it takes a lot of energy. Giving people feedback, explaining things to people, teaching things to people takes a lot of energy. It's something that I really enjoy, or I wouldn't do it. But the thing is Stack Overflow is changing from just simple asking and answering questions to, there is I don't know if it's always been there, this element of it, but we're flooded because, you know, when the world's population has grown, people are trying to make money. There's people who, you know, who knows, there'll be people that are hiring time in computer cafes and sitting with their laptop that doesn't have enough CPU or even storage to cope with, say, can barely run Android Studio, say, and then they're asking questions on Android and they're trying to teach themselves Android from the docs or whatever, just Googling around, and not realizing that it actually takes a lot of hard, dedicated hours to actually examine and debug your code and work on it. But and then they come and ask questions and they appear lazy. Sometimes they might be looking for something quick, sometimes they might be genuine. I don't know if you can just tell from asking a question. I think there are telltale signs of whether someone's actually interested in helping themselves or not, and you can usually tell by how they respond in the comments, providing there's not too many, a pile-on of comments and they get overwhelmed, and then people tend to get aggressive or just fold up and go. If you have, just one or two sensible people discussing with somebody about why their question's not answerable in the current state, and then you watch the person and they try to give that information and improve their answer, then you're on to a winner. But if the person just doesn't respond, or they just fight back immediately with, that where they're just using the site as they think that they can just get something for nothing, like it. And really, you can't actually. Nothing's free, and you can't get something for nothing. Even if you're asking a question, there is an expectation that you put an effort into the question, and that you're contributing to the site by asking a decent question. There's nothing's for free in this world. Nothing's for free. Whenever anything is advertised as free, it's not free. Nothing's free. Everything comes at a cost. Whether you've got to sign your email over and then be spammed to death for the rest of your life, or whatever. There's usually, things are far more complex than that. But wow, this traffic's bad. I'm trying to get through a traffic light, and this has got time restrictions on it. You normally can't even just turn right here. There's 6 hours of the day you can't turn right here because the traffic's so bad. You have to go around another way. I'm beginning to think I should have just gone around the other way anyway. Yeah. Anyway, I certainly don't have the answers. And I think, from what I can gather, I think the company Stack Overflow is looking at feedback from the meta users and whatnot, but I think that they're analysing things and running their own race, and so the community has a lot less say. And in a way, is that good or bad? Honestly, I think sometimes when you employ people who are more distant from, I think you can get top heavy. I think you can have too many people analysing and investigating something, and experts on UI and this kind of thing, and I think they need more developers to actually, I don't know how many developers they got, but I think they definitely have needed developers and developer time to actually implement stuff onto the site, and I don't think a lot of it was rocket science in terms of what the site needed. And my concern is that they're going to waste a lot of money just employing people, and then they'll get back to a point where they'll have more staff cuts. It's happened before, and it happens in every organisation, and then they'll be struggling again, and then they'll have to pull something else out of their hat, because at the moment I just think that the company's at a risk of wasting a lot of money. This is not based on anything that I've heard, this is just my observation of being, over half a century old. I like saying that, but it's true. I've been around for a while and just observing things, and so in terms of the question and answer, I think the best thing that the company can do is, of that question and answer site, is the best thing the company can do for people that are actually keeping the site going by flagging, sitting on review queues, voting to close, voting to reopen, voting up and down, editing posts, everything that people do and take care to do, is they just need to give people the tools. I know they wanted to, I don't understand the ins and outs of what they needed to analyse about reducing the ability to close questions to 3 close votes, and then watching the queue go back up after having 5, and then I think at some point it's like it's not really rocket science. It's like, what are they trying to see? Who they're marginalising and who they're losing as a result of closing the questions. I think there's some more stuff underneath it, maybe, that they're not, they're more. See, the problem is there's the dollar and cents bottom line that's actually underneath it all, and that's in conflict with people wanting to get on with the site and pull the weeds. And I'm very aware that when that if I want to come back to the site, I can't. I don't think I can be this. Like, I have been outspoken at times on Meta, but I think there's less room for me or anyone to be outspoken on Meta, and to actually have an opinion. And I mean, as a moderator, the thing is you're caught between a rock and a hard place in terms of I always thought that the moderator was someone that represented the community, and you kind of when I first stood up to become a moderator, I just thought that I was there to represent the community's interests and to go with what the community had voted on and what the rules of the site were. But then that changed dramatically soon after becoming a moderator with the welcoming block, and I'm on the freeway now, and just how things were implemented. And then it became clear that the Stack Overflow company was making the rules, and that everyone else pretty much, you could have feedback, but it was limited, and we had to listen and just abide by those rules. So as a moderator, it meant kind of being stuck between what I think is right and what I think is best for the site, and having to be discreet because I'm kind of a representative of the site, even though I'm not a paid employee. It kind of feels like I've got similar restrictions on me, or did have, as a moderator, to being a paid employee, which kind of annoyed me a bit. But I also understand as well, because it's their site. They want to, keep the reputation of the site, and they've got a goal and a direction. But look, for what it's worth, I'm one person, but I know that there's a lot of people who agree with me. I think they're making some mistakes, some colossal mistakes, because it's the question and answer website that gives that whole network its power. They can ship these products till the cows come home, but they will lose it. If they lose the traffic on the question and answer site, their products will lose appeal. They won't, there's a limitation on all the other paid products that they've offered, employment and everything. It's all contingent upon the success of the question and answer site. And they've got to at some point draw a line in the sand and say, well, maybe we should have a minimum bar of who can post here, and try and keep some experienced users here who expert programmers who are willing to dedicate their time, volunteer their time, and then all the other people in between who focus more on curating the site. And because without all those people, without all those bodies on the ground, the site will not be able to continue. And so it's kind of ironic. It's like, by totally dismissing Meta, and I understand Meta's apparently a very small part of the community, but the thing, I've still some stats on who is active in Meta, and then active in the review queues, and using their other moderator tools, that whatever privileges they've got at whatever rep they've got. I'd really like to have some data on that. I don't 100% buy it all, and the thing is I think, so I think there's a fly in the car. So it's chocker full of horse feed and buckets and lead ropes and rooming kit why I want to live with my horses, because it's just a pain carting stuff around from. They're all on the same property. It's a 100-acre property, and you just can't leave your stuff around because there's all these other people, and I've got some of it locked up, but it's just yeah. Anyway, back onto this. I think the thing is with, I wouldn't be dismissing the core user base too much. I'd be, you know, yeah, I understand. Meta could be horrible. Still can be sometimes, but they were horrible. I used to hate going on there. They have massive fights with people in the pylon, and I joined the so closed reviewers room, whatever it is. SOCRV. I can't even think about it without a computer screen in front of me. And Renee on there, the flower pot man, who I have a lot of respect for. He, under one of my meta posts where there was a bunch of pylon and massive downvotes, I had some of the most downvoted posts on Meta before the split. And then he suggested, he said, in this room we don't allow pylon. If one member of the room is under a post discussing, you know, closed reasons with the OP, we tell other people in the room not to go in there and comment as well. And that's actually basically really what the shite, that to me, it's such a simple rule and philosophy. It's like, yeah, like, I don't know why they don't have that in the bloody health centre and the code of conduct. And I've always said that pylons are the worst. I've been saying it for years. And just let one helpful person, if the person's being a dick, stop them from commenting for a while. There's no way to stop people from commenting without suspending the whole account. But so to get back onto Meta, yeah, Meta was hell, and people get outraged, but there was the whole nature of it, the group mentality and the mob mentality, and that it happens on Facebook, it happens everywhere, it happens where I gist my horses. It's like, it's human beings. We're strange creatures. See, I've always been much more of a loner, and I just kind of like, I don't know, I've always been kind of suspicious of people. So for me to belong to Meta and feel like I'm a part of that group, and like it's like a big extended family, and I actually am very fond of a lot of the people on there. That's actually more, it wasn't by design, it was more like by just, I don't know, it was strange how it happened, but I would tend to isolate myself from people, but I don't trust people, and I find people, as a species, we're not a very loyal species, and we will turn on a dime, and obviously everyone wants to protect themselves as self-interest, and that's a primitive thing, but when it comes to a lot of social stuff, you don't need to do that. We've got frontal lobes to be able to override that urge to attack someone else and throw someone else under the bus. You know, we don't need to do it. I've done it at times, but I actually really try hard not to do it. And when I do it, I'm aware that I'm doing it. But for a lot of people, it's just the go-to default setting. And so I'm not being mean about people on Meta and saying, oh my God, they're so bad. Look, you know, they did this, they did that. Like, seriously, they're just people. And Jeff Atwood actually kind of encouraged it with some of his blogs and his attitudes about programming, which I actually don't entirely disagree with, I might add. But that's a whole other issue. The thing is Stack Overflow isn't just for gifted programmers or for people that are actually really good at it. It's for everyone. And as such, we have to be tolerant. But at the same time, we still need to have a minimum bar. And I don't even know what the hell I've even said here. What have I said? I've kind of said, I've just really picked up this rock and I've been examining it, like, Stack Overflow's had a change in policy on what kind of questions it will accept, what the user base is, which means it's changing what questions it will accept. That's actually the truth of it, but there's been nothing official to say that, because you cannot go from having a site that's main goal was to provide some kind of library, whatever resource, which is also, I've always found that a bit weird, because really it's been a question and answer site. So anyway, but the bottom line of that was that it was for enthusiasts and professional programmers. Now it's for anyone. It's for beginners. So you cannot expect the same questions to be coming in. And of course, a beginner is not going to necessarily even realize it's a duplicate, because they're not going to even, half the time beginners don't even understand the problem. They don't understand how to ask the question, and this is the issue. And I remember this very clearly from when I was beginning. I didn't even know what language to use, what terminology to use to ask a question, because I just did not know what the hell was wrong. I didn't know what parameters were or arguments to go into a function. It's like, seriously, I did not know. And I was studying at university, so I don't know why they didn't just, there wasn't a lecture in Programming 101 about parameters and arguments. It was like, seriously? Like, you know, I'm not a moron, but I felt like one. And I'm very literal. So when I used to read stuff, because I've always studied and worked online, and so I'd read stuff and it'd have insert here with like the arrow brackets on either side of it, and I didn't understand. It took me a couple of years to work out what that. I didn't understand. I just didn't understand it even. I took everything literally. So can you imagine how confusing that was? It's like, yeah, maybe I am thick, but I'm very literal, which meant once I started to understand programming, I was quite good at it, because I thought like a computer, so I could follow the instructions of the computer. That was how I needed to be taught. Fun fact, I really struggled with object-oriented programming. I didn't understand it. I was like, what the hell? I just couldn't grasp it. It didn't help that when our Java lectures were fortnightly instead of weekly, and they would go for nearly 3 hours. They were tutorials. We didn't actually have lectures, they were tutorials. And so the thing is when I was learning, I used to re-watch lectures and go back to certain parts of it, and that was laborious trying to find it. And the Blackboard that we used in that university, I couldn't download it. It was very hard to go through and search. It was painstaking, and it would time out, and you'd get logged out, and just trying to go back and find. I struggled so much, and then I learned C. I got like 97% or something. It was like a breath of fresh air. The lectures were fantastic. He taught us how to debug from the beginning. The problem isn't necessarily always where you expect, so keep running your code and make sure it runs. I didn't think memory allocation and memory leaks and all that were that difficult to comprehend. It was quite straightforward maths, actually, in that you need to allocate enough memory, and then you need to deallocate it when you've finished using it, and not before you've finished using it, or you'll get your garbage. It's like, and try not to keep it hanging around unnecessarily. That's, then we can argue about, do you just clean up all your memory at the end in one go, and it takes a while to quit the program, or do you do it on the fly? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The thing is I know a lot of students really struggled with it. I loved it. Then we did C, and I thought, I'm a procedural programmer. I thought that's what it was. And if there had been work in C, I would have gone into it. But I'm competing with engineers and embedded C programmers, and there's no chance. Anyway, so then what happened was we did C++. Perfect. understood it, object-oriented programming, and to me that's like the best language on the planet. Again, I ended up working in C# and Android, because there was work in web applications and mobile applications, and C#. Visual Studio was, so flexible in terms of the sort of applications I could write, and we did a lot of MVC projects, and they were quite handy in the way it would all be scaffolded depending on what you wanted. I don't like Microsoft, but I've spent a lot of time programming in Microsoft. I use a Mac now. I've the Apple apps that I've deployed, I've used mainly used Xamarin, or had somebody else do it, and I'm trying to think if I've done anything. I've done tiny little weird little things, but nothing involving the code. I've never programmed really using my Mac. I've run a virtual machine on it. It's been disappointing. Or Android Studio. But I have a great deal of respect for Apple. A lot of people go, oh, it's so expensive. But the thing is when you're deploying Apple apps, you need an Apple machine. And so you can't just have a Linux machine, and Windows is just so painful and so slow. And I got this little Apple Mac Air, and it was quicker than my Windows machine that had all the bells and whistles. It was so quick, everything about it was quicker, and its internet connection was quicker, everything was quicker. And I remember discussing with people who could work out why it would be quicker, but it was. And I'm not very knowledgeable on hardware, but I know the basics. But anyway, since then I've just been on Apple. It's just so much better, because I reckon they deploy their stuff as non-buggy as possible, whereas Microsoft works on deadlines, and they will deploy their stuff with bugs, known bugs, and then just keep sending out patches and patches and patches, and that's how they run their software business. And I think it's disgusting, because they'll just and I remember at one point, when I was keen, I used to always get the latest releases for Windows and Visual Studio, and after a while I would not upgrade until it had been released for a long time, because it was like I didn't want to have to go through that pain in the neck. I'd prefer to have the software with all its patches and updates, and anyway, I've gone off topic. I don't know what I've said. Nothing really, nothing that hasn't been said before. But I didn't talk as much about Stack Overflow, my reasons for leaving as mod, and honestly my reasons for leaving was just sheer exhaustion, and just I've read the chat room occasionally, and I just the thought of even writing in chat makes me feel very tired. I'm just probably burnt out, but not just from Stack Overflow. My life's extraordinarily busy, and as I say, I work in education, and that requires a lot of putting yourself out when you're communicating. So and Stack Overflow is the same as moderator. I posted a lot on Meta, but I thought that was the right thing to do, is to communicate with people. What's going on here? Going 20 kilometres under the speed limit. Anyway, just distracted. There's a lot of cops going up and down this freeway constantly. Lots of spots where they usually sit, and other spots where they hide. Anyway, so I've totally lost my point. I do that all the time. Getting worse with age. As a moderator, and then going on Meta, and I just thought that was important to communicate with people, and just even giving feedback on flags, and it can be very tiring. And some of the mods work really, 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 really hard, and I can imagine that they're struggling at the moment. probably will come back. I don't know. Like, I'm just thinking, like, you never know. I don't know. Like, after having a big break, I might not feel like coming back. But I have got a lot of love for the site and the people on the site. So, and I enjoy programming. I find it very interesting. But that's another story I have to get onto. Programming as a contractor, remote contractor in Australia, and the stress of it.